Welcome to the Grad School Femtoring Podcast. This is Doctora Yvette Martinez-Vu, and I will be serving as your femtor, providing you with tips and tricks and everything else you need to know to get into graduate school. For the past 10 years, I've been helping undergraduate students get into top graduate programs in their field, and I'm really excited to share this information with you too. Yay, we're recording. I am excited. This is episode 100 of the Grad School Femtoring Podcast. And of course, I had to do something special. So for me, what could be more special than to bring the mujeres who essentially are the reason why this podcast is even here to begin with, to bring them on, the mujeres of the Chicana Motherword Collective, to talk a little bit more about what it means to build community and work as a collective, since we've been doing this for the past 7+ years now. And so typically what I do in the podcast is I read people's bios, but since there are 4 of us here today, I figured we could have each one of us introduce ourselves. So I'll go ahead and kind of popcorn it, have each of us introduce ourselves, and then we can kind of get into having this plática on building community and working collectively. So we'll get started with Cecilia.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be on here, Yvette. Congratulations on all that you've done with Grad School Femtoring. It's just been great to see you and support you on this path. So for me, my name's Cecilia. I use she, her pronouns. I live on Tongva land in Boyle Heights, but I'm originally born and raised in Northern California. I'm a creative writer, speaker, and facilitator. And I work mostly around BIPOC literature and poetry. It's what I love doing. And I'm working on some books right now. Of creative nonfiction and poetry. So that's me.
Who do you want to popcorn it to?
Judy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Yvette, for having us. It's an honor to be here, and I feel so fancy even you sharing the background with us. So thank you. My name is Judith Perez, and my pronouns is her, she, her, ella. And I have my 3 kids. It's Luna, she's 10, Tino's 8, and Joaquin is just turned 6. They share the same birthdays as Emmy, so we have that kind of same birthdays. And then I am currently, or I've been adjuncting for almost 5 years at Cal State Fullerton. I work under 3 departments, which is the Chicano Studies Department, University 100, the Office of University 100, or Office of First Year Experience, and Educational Leadership Department as well. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Thank you, and then I'll popcorn it to Christine.
Buenos dias. It's really good to see everyone, and shout out to Michelle who couldn't make it today. But my name is Christine Vega. I am a assistant professor of Chicano Studies at State.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, friends. And that's been a journey in itself, right? And I reside in West San Jose. And my son is about to turn 8, and I'm really excited. I've been really nostalgic about that, but maybe we'll get to that point where talking about our children. And I have the honor and privilege of being surrounded by amazing students of color and allies and accomplices here at San Jose, and here supporting my partner, who's also again for the 5th year, I think, on the market. So, but yeah, it's really good to be here. I'm really excited to talk about community with all of you and be in community with all of you. So then now we pass it back to you, Yvette.
I don't know if I need to do I need to introduce myself? I am Yvette. those of y'all that listen to me every week, I know I go by Yvette, Dr. Yvette, Doctora Yvette, and I am the podcast host. And now I call myself academic coach and femtor and the founder of Grad School Femtoring LLC, which feels like a big deal to me because this week I got a binder in the mail that has like a seal that says Grad School Femtoring, some official documents about how it's a company, how I can like give shares, although I'm laughing, the laughing emoji, because I'm like, I'm not making that much money right now, but eventually if y'all want a share, any angel investors out there, hit me up. But yeah, so and when I introduce myself, I always like feel like saying Chicana mother scholar, mom of two. My son just turned 8 too, so we've got our Scorpio babies. And my daughter recently turned 1. And it's funny because she's right on the cusp between Libra and Scorpio. And it wasn't until her birthday that I realized she's actually a Scorpio. So I've been thinking she's a Libra all year. And now I'm like, makes way more sense. So anyway, I'm getting distracted. My bad. This is what happens when I'm with my friends, is I get really distracted and then I start to laugh really loud. So hopefully you can lower your mute your volume buttons when I'm laughing. So building community. I know one way we usually get started by talking about us is by kind of sharing our story. I want to say our birth story, but sharing our story of how we came together. And I'm happy to have one of y'all share in that story because I don't always remember. So if one of y'all can remind me of how we got together. I do remember, but not all the details.
I like how Ceci tells the story. Can I nominate?
Yeah.
I like it too. Go, Ceci.
Well, Yvette doesn't remember when we first met, but we were undergrads. We were at a conference for the Melamay's undergraduate fellowship. Yvette was at UCLA, I was at UC Berkeley, and it was the annual regional conference. So where was it? Was Stanford?
Yeah, it was Stanford.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I was actually pregnant at the time, and I remember going to Target and buying like this huge baggy shirt, and I'm just like, no one's gonna know. And I also became friends later with Esther Trujillo, who was also on the podcast, and later she was just like, girl, I knew right away. Like, I'm like, oh shit, I guess. Oh, sorry.
You can cuss. This is an explicit podcast.
I'm just like, oh, I thought I was like camouflaging myself, but no, Esther, Esther, she's just like, no, I noticed. She notices everything. But even going to that conference pregnant, it just, it was like my first professional academic conference, and I think it was my first time presenting a paper. So that's kind of the purpose of the Melamay's undergraduate fellowship, where they want to increase diversity in the professoriate, all these things. And I remember when I went that I had, I felt not as supported because I was getting conflicting kind of comments and messages from, different people at, my university. And I even doubted myself, that I just thought that even I thought I would drop out and not complete college because I internalized those messages or those doubts. And so I was kind of in that mindset when I went to the conference, which is where I first met Yvette, which she doesn't remember. And then later when I moved to LA, which is where Yvette was, when I started my PhD program, we were already in communication because we were thinking of what to do for
ASA.
The ASA, the American Studies Association annual conference, and we wanted to submit a conference panel, and we were just kind of thinking, well, what should we submit for this panel. And then kind of one by one, that became Chicana Motherwork. The panel became Chicana Motherwork later. So it was Michelle, Christine, and Judy, and me and Yvette. And I think, we reached out to Michelle, who we had read her article that had just come out at that time about, and what's the title? I feel like you do remember the title.
I always do. Some shit I don't remember, and some stuff I remember like verbatim. So Michelle doesn't even remember her title, but Michelle, so if you're listening, your article that inspired this whole movement is Lectures, Evaluations, and Diapers, Navigating the Terrains of Chicana Single Motherhood in Academia, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, and it was so great because I had not read anything that described my exact positionality of being a single mom and in academia and living away from family, and just, she also used, personal narratives and testimonial in her article. So I was so inspired. And she said yes to joining our panel. And then I think Yvette reached out to Christine, and then Christine reached out to Judy. And then since then, we all just started working together. But I do know, Christine, that you also have a story about how you met Yvette, right? I think before that panel.
I love that story. It's so cute.
I do too.
I think we have to write about this, like how we met, because like, especially like honoring 7 years, like that's a long time. That's longer than some relationships. And we always think about that, right? Like this is when folks ask me if I believe in soulmates, and I say I do, but I have multiple soulmates in multiple like relationships with people. And I yes, I have a partner and I love him very, very much. Like he's the love of my life, but so are you all. Like, and so are like another group of like of mujeres and another group of people. Like have little pockets of little love affairs, I think, and again, they're like platonic, but they're like, I don't know, like that to me is soul work, right? Anyway, I'm getting off the rails here, but I was pregnant my first year of PhD. I think the quarter had ended and I found out I was pregnant. And I was working on the, ya ni me acuerdo, is it South Campus or North Campus, Yvette?
South Campus.
South Campus. Okay, so you see this massive South Campus is where a lot of the STEM and life science and hard sciences live. And I was working for an organization there. And I was kind of feeling my body was like, my belly shifting was really big. So my body was shifting. I had a lot of backache. And I don't know, like we talk about like earrings. I know it's kind of hard to see our earrings, but we usually, like for me, I think earrings are really like a part of our identity. And I was waiting for my food and I see Yvette. I don't know Yvette, right? So I see this Chicana, like random Chicana in the South Campus area of campus and waiting. And she's wearing these beautiful beaded earrings. I think her coat was red also. Can't remember.
I had a red, ¿cómo se llama? Little,
your bag. Yeah.
my little rolly bag is like a backpack that rolls on the ground. Cause like, yeah. And you complimented me. I remember distinctly. You're like, that's a cute bag, cute earrings. Like, where'd you get that bag?
Yeah. So I was like, I was really embarrassed to go up to you because I'm like, everyone's like, my students and my friends were like, Christine, you shouldn't carry a backpack anymore. Like you're in too much pain. And I was getting waddly, right? So then I'm like, oh, I should go up to her. I'm like, no, it's embarrassing. And then I'm like, but she's wearing beaded earrings, so maybe she'll be like nice. And so I decided to go up to her and then I complimented her on her bag. I'm like, hey, like, I like your bag. Where'd you get it? I think you said, was it Overstock?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
We're not being like endorsed by
How do
any
you remember?
company.
I'm just like surprised that y'all remember so many details.
But if Overstock wants to endorse and give me one now because I'm old, I don't want to carry a backpack to campus anymore. So she's like, oh yeah, I got it Overstock. It was a beautiful like rolly bag, right? And I'm like, yes, because I'm pregnant. So I show her my panza, and then she gets up, she goes, I'm pregnant too. She shows me her belly, and I'm like, what? I was like, wow, this is like divine, like it's just a divine not coincidence, just divine intervention. And then it ends up being that Yvette and I are from the same community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. We went to the same high school. You were like teaching TSP. So you had my student Gio, who's from Pacoima.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Gio and Junior, my first mentees. And I was like, that was it. Like I would see Yvette on the bus. She's like, hey, come sit next to me. Cause then we ended up living on the same side of family housing at UCLA. Like it was crazy. And then Emmy was due around the same time as Hanitio.
Weeks apart. Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, that's how we met.
And now we gotta hear how you and Judy met too, porque también hay más.
See, your story is all divine, meeting Yvette, and Yvette's just like, I don't remember, Ceci.
I distinctly remember meeting up with you at every single Mellon conference, Ceci. Just not the first one.
Ceci had a BFF, Yvette and me friendship bracelets. Yvette no se acuerda.
She's like, you remember Christine and not me?
See how Yvette made me tell the story? How I told the story?
No I remember. She wasn't sure. She's like, hold on.
I don't know if I remember correctly. Let's just have them say it.
I also appreciate that extroverts just adopt introverts. So thank you, Christine, because me and Yvette are also, or Judy, we're like, just kind of chill.
I feel like Judy's an ambivert.
Yeah.
So, ¿cómo se conocieron ustedes, Judy and Christine?
A ver, Judy, your turn.
So I started, I guess, in Utah, right? It was I remember ECS, right, would always bring in students that were interested in doing the master's program. And I wasn't in an ECS, I was in ELP, but we were always down to host the parties to invite all the students there. So that's how I met her. They're like, hey, there's just some new students. I was like, oh, bring them to our house, to my house. And that's how I first met you, right, Christine? And so we met there, but we didn't have kids. I didn't have kids. So it was fun. That was the fun side of us in grad school. But then I got pregnant with Luna. So she's older than both of your kids. So I moved back home to LA so that I can get help from my parents. And then, we kind of like, you all stayed in Utah, right? I remember you stayed in Utah because you were doing your master's. And by that time I was doing my PhD, and I moved back out here. That was already my third year. But when I found out, I guess you went to UCLA, right? For your PhD now, right? Yeah. So for your PhD. So when I found out on Facebook, I think it was that you were pregnant, I was like, oh, she's out here in LA, she's pregnant, so she can be my friend, because I was really struggling with finding a place to study, finding people that, were in the same space as me in a PhD, and moms as well. So I was eager to like just try to, follow where you're at. And I would even tell Mom, can you take care of my kid? And then I was all trying to hit you up like, oh, what are you having? Are you having a boy or girl? And by that time, I got pregnant again. So by that time it was a boy. I was like, I have baby boy clothes. Can I drop it off to you? That was my way to even reach out to you. I was just so, in need of compañía. So that's how I reached out to her. But it was really hard for us to coordinate a time. I remember having my big bags of baby boy clothes in the back of my trunk, just trying to go over there. And UCLA is far from where my mom lived. But I was like, I want to do it because I was so desperate to find that companionship. So it didn't happen, but that's when you called me. You're like, hey, I'm sorry we can't connect. But there's a group of mujeres that are also moms that want to present on our work. Would you be interested? I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? I didn't understand it. I hadn't read the article. I hadn't met Yvette or Ceci or, Michelle, no la conocía nadie. I had never heard of anything like that. So I was just like, yeah, I'm down, whatever it is, I'm for it. No clue. And I think the ASA conference was the first time we were going to meet in person. I remember being so nervous for us to do, this was before Zoom, right? I think we did through Google Hangouts where we first met. I was so nervous to meet you all because I was like, damn, they're chingonas. They're all from, these top schools. And here I am with my baby. So I was really intimidated. But when I saw you all, you all were so nice, so sweet. So I felt like I already knew you just through that video. And so I remember seeing Ceci. She was, I don't know if you remember this, Ceci, now it's payback. Let me see if you remember this. but you were in the computer at the conference at the hotel. And I just remembered you because of that video chat that we had with your beautiful curly hair. And I was like, hey, Sissy. And you were like, hi, kind of like the introvert. And I'm over here. I am too, but I get excited once I feel like I meet people. And so I was so excited to meet you. And we just bonded so immediately. And it was really beautiful. So that's my little story from what I remember.
I don't even know how to describe that feeling of that time that we got together that first time and we had our babies there. And maybe how many people in the audience?
It was all our partners and our kids, and that was it.
And a couple of friends. Esther was there. Esther,
she was like two, 3 friends. And we're so nervous, right? We're so nervous who's gonna show up, and are they gonna kick us out because of our kids?
Yeah,
that was one of the things that I was worried about too.
Or weren't you pregnant with the third baby at that point again, Judy? You didn't want to tell us, and I think you told us that day.
I was at another conference with my third one. That was me right there. I'm feeling sassy with the shirt. I'm like, oh, should I hide it? They're gonna be like, oh my God, third kid already? Yeah. I was like, they're gonna kick me out already. That was in San Francisco. I remember that one in San Francisco. That wasn't.
Oh, so I like your story. So I'm like, oh, I've never partied with Judy and Christine.
We were fun before kids. Yeah.
We still are fun. What you talking about?
Yes, we are fun. We just
not
can't
after
hang.
9 p.m.
Yeah, I'm like, we just can't hang. Yes.
I just remember when we would go travel later, we would travel to conferences and just stay up like talking all night and laughing.
And cuddling, sort of.
Cuddling or wanting to cuddle. And some
My
of us like,
My interpretation.
So it's been 7 years, y'all. Like that was 7 years ago. So much has happened in 7 years. And how is it that we have not like gotten fed up of each other or moved on to other things or formed, well, some of us have formed other collectives. How is it that we're still here? I feel like if I were an outsider trying to look in, I would be curious, like, how do they do it? Like, how do they get together? What do they do? Like, how do they work together? What have they learned in 7 years? So I'd love to hear that from your perspectives, because I know, and from my perspective, y'all have taught me a lot of lessons. Like you've taught me how to be patient, with being type A, wanting to get shit done, like learning that it's okay to do things more slowly and intentionally. I've learned that through you all. I've learned about the power of dreaming and dreaming collectively, not just dreaming alone. So some of the things that we've done have all started as like planting a seed and a dream, and it seemed like this big thing, and then somehow we got it done. And I feel like that right now about our future projects. But yeah, I would love to hear from you all, like about that, about what it's like, what it's been like, what have y'all learned?
I can start. I think for the last 7 years, and probably even longer, right? Because it wasn't until ASA, that was 2014, but even before that, right? I don't know, like it just felt like a sisterhood right away, right? And we all have our different personalities and our strengths in areas that we can grow from. But I think what's really important about this collective is that we all like tap into our strengths and we help each other grow in that way, right? And so I think that's what makes it really powerful. And yeah, we can't romanticize that there isn't any tensions, because they are, but those tensions can then be resolved. And I think what we've, I don't know, maybe is the fact that we're parents, that we've like learned the skill set to, like, something I learned from Ceci was the rupture and the repair. When I was having like, and I still have a hard time with Hanitio here and there, like there's always learning with our children. And I remember when I would call Ceci, like in my most like hard moments with Hanitio, I was reminded of the rupture and repair. And I think that's something that we try to practice, not necessarily naming that, but if there's tensions or whatever, like we can talk about it, cry about it, get mad at each other about it, and work through it and move on, right? And I think that's just, it's like 5 of us, like it's a lot, right? I still laugh at I don't know, maybe it was you and me fighting, Yvette, and then like Michelle yelled
Yeah,
at
it
us.
was.
And Michelle
Why is it
just-
always us, Christine?
I don't know, my Aries fire, and I don't know, your Virgo everything.
It's not Aries. Seriously, I've struggled with Aries, folks. Sorry, if my listeners who are Aries, I love you, but sometimes there's tension.
Like there's I boil up, right? Like I'm a Cancer. I'm sensitive, but I boil up like from 0 to 1,000 really fast, you know? And so I just remember that time and just Michelle yelling at us, and we were like, oh shit, big sister status, like, all right. And then Judy turning around. Like,
Wait, what did Michelle say? Like, I
yeah,
forgot.
cállate. It was hilarious.
Michelle is the seasoned one of the group.
But it's real, right? Like these tensions are real and they're
Yeah.
important, right? They're so important. But we keep each other like I think that's how we keep each other balanced. And honestly, like when we get together I really miss that so much. COVID has changed that for us. And it's exhausting because we do a lot of work, but it's really I miss being in community with you all. I can stop there.
And I was gonna say too, the thing about COVID is that because we've been in different places at different times for so many years, we were already using Zoom way before the rest of the world were. So I appreciate all the things that I've learned, like even down to like the skill sets that we've taught each other, from kind of having to learn how to navigate 5 different people working together. Did I see Judy? I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think I was just saying like that. I remember that argument with you all. That's when I was like, these are my sisters. These are my sisters. I felt the love because I grew up with, it was 4 of us, sisters. And so I think for me, this community, it was a different community from like my sisters. My sisters, it was growing up with our parents, you know, the way we grew up was different. But they didn't understand me because none of them went to college. None of them went to, you know, grad school and continued their education. So they didn't understand a lot of the experiences that I was having, especially as a mom. They could help me with supporting me with the kids, but they couldn't really help me with balancing, you know, life and all the family problems and all that. So I think I seek you all to know, how are you doing it? You know, you are also first generation. You also understood what it was like to go to undergrad, grad school, and you know, the professors, all of these things. That was my family, my community, where I felt like I needed this, and the reunions that we have, the retreats that we have, was my way to release all the stress that I wasn't able to, or just the different things that were going on with me as a mother, as a grad student as well, right? Those are a lot of things that our family members or my siblings wouldn't be able to understand. So that was super helpful for me, because it's like, okay, we talk about grad school, we talk about mothering, but we also have, you know, disagreements. And that's what that was the part that was missing with us before, because we didn't have any disagreements. So then I was like, yes, that's what we needed to have that, because it made us stronger. And I think I remember that feeling like, you know, it hurts when we argue. To me, it's like I've always been the one just observing my sisters when they start arguing, and I'm just like listening, and I'm just quiet, and I always share my thoughts right afterwards. And I felt the same way with you. I was just listening and quiet. I'm like, oh, till, you know, our big sister came and la regañó, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is family. this is what we're doing, and it's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, just at the beginning, when I first started my PhD program, just feeling really isolated. But I'm glad now in 2021 or almost 2022 that things are so much different now. And I think that's another reason why social media can be, you know, used for good, in the sense that I see so many things online of like people posting about being parents, or, you know, having other responsibilities and trying to help each other get through college and grad school and their goals. Because when we started, there was none of that really. And in my program, I think there was at the time one other person who was a parent, but then he was, I think it's just different when they're fathers when they're men. So I didn't really connect with him. And then later, one of my friends had 2 children during the PhD program, a woman of color. So I felt more support that way. But otherwise, you know, it's just like I couldn't afford a babysitter. I had to figure out how to get to my seminars, and just there wasn't support for childcare costs. Like, at least my undergrad institution did have more of those support and services. So for me, it was when I found out that Yvette was pregnant. So just kind of, I don't remember how we started keeping in touch again. I think when I moved to LA, and then by the point that we came to ASA and just trying to organize that panel. But I think for me that was helpful. And then looking back on it, just looking at undergrad. So how I said earlier, like I was trying to find a shirt where it's just, I kind of wanted to hide, you know, my pregnancy, because especially as an undergrad where not as many, well, actually there are, according to the data, there actually are a lot of undergrads who are parents, but it doesn't feel that way. Or I felt like I was the only one. And looking back on it, it's just like, why did I internalize that, like that I had to hide it? And because I had these doubts. And things are still hard for parents and mothers in academia, but I'm glad that we've been able to work together and to, you know, just kind of bring more visibility to everything that we do. So that's what's been important to me. And then also I think the other thing that helps with working together for so long is that we're a collective, meaning that we're not based in any one institution. You know, we don't get funding from, you know, a certain grant, you know, we're not a nonprofit. And I think that really helps because we just do what we want, and we have different projects, just having meetings, checking in with each other. So I think that's kind of, it does require time and attention in a different way than what we're taught in academia, you know, as, you know, quote unquote, you know, service or whatever, or for some kind of goal towards tenure or something. But there's many ways to work together and exist. So I'm glad that Chicana Motherwork is one possibility out of many.
And I feel like our work is infinite. You know, there is no like one designated end goal or end date. And I love that about it. It's like that sense of, for me, provides me with the comfort and security that I usually kind of am looking for in other spaces, but that I should know that I have within myself too. But the collective, I think, has helped with empowering me as a person, because we've validated each other so much. We've talked about like how we give each other micro affirmations that like counter all the microaggressions, macroaggressions, all the shit that we deal with in academic spaces. And then we create our own like counter spaces, our own spaces of resistance. And even if it's just us meeting over Zoom, having this plática, it's like, I know I'm gonna feel better. Like every time we've had a conversation, no matter how difficult it's been, I have always felt better. And I think that's powerful. And to know that I have that, and that I have that infinitely, it's like so much abundance. So like, I feel like I'm so grateful to you all. And seriously, y'all are the reason I started the podcast. I was like researching different podcasting options for Chicana Motherwork, like what would be like to try different things out. And I was just joking around, messing with my phone, and created Grad School Femtoring without even thinking about it. And then it became a thing. So thank you, mujeres, for everything.
I was just thinking, sorry, Christina, you were going to say something, right? Okay. I listened to Pacifica Radio 90.7. Do y'all hear it? Listen to it. And it was somebody, they were interviewing a person, I can't remember, and I was trying to research the person to give them credit, but I remember one of the things when I think of our collective, what it's done for me, it's really allowed me to express my thoughts, right? How I feel about certain things. And for many of you, I know even just what you know, imagine doing, what you're hoping to do, right? That's our collective. We share like our dreams, literally, and also our dreams, you know, just in our thoughts. And she was talking, the person that were being interviewed, she was talking about how we're so trained, and Ceci talked about it too, how we internalize what it means to walk around at a conference pregnant, right? I think we were so trained to police our behaviors, our attitudes, our language, how we look, right? And so we knew very much how to do that. And this collective has allowed us to, you know, be free and be who we are and talk the way we have. We don't have to be professional. We don't have to, you know, look a certain way. It's actually, we embrace our looks, right? Our greñas or not greñas, right? For the day things. But I think one of the things that really stood out for me, that particular interviewee said about how through the book that they had written, is how they're no longer feeling like they're policing their possibilities. And I think this is what this collective does for me, where our possibilities are endless, and we always share our dreams or what we imagine. We share them together individually, and we support each other on them, right? And collectively as well. And that was like, yes, that's what this collective does for me, right? It really allows us to dream together, dream and support each other on our individual dreams, like Grad School Femtoring, right? All of that. It's really powerful. And I love that we don't have to police who we are within ourselves. Like, we're our whole self, you know, when we're struggling with our kids, when we're struggling with our parejas as well, with our family members, right? We talk about all these different things. And that's powerful for me, because I never feel judged by you all. And that's something that's really hard, right? Because with my family, I love my family, but the way I raise my kids, they might not agree with, right? And sometimes I question myself. And so I come to you all like, hey, how are you doing it? How do you do it with this? How do you do it with that, right? It's really beautiful to have that support with you all, where we provide feedback to each other as well. So that's what it has meant for me.
We got about 10 more minutes left. I'm just curious if there's any final thoughts or things that have come to mind you want to share with folks that maybe are trying to find a space for themselves, or trying to find like-minded individuals, trying to build community wherever they are.
I think for me, because I'm again in a new city, you know, in a new community, and I think I'm just exhausted, right, of the moving and the trying to set roots, and then knowing that things could be temporary. I think I'm just trekking slower, and I think for now, what I'm trying to do is kind of like listening to the vibration of the spaces I'm in. And I'm one of the only tenure track faculty that's currently present on campus in my department, right? So I'm not necessarily like, como les digo, like, I think for me, the community right now are my students, and then listening to what they need, right? Because, you know, I was very intentional about where I wanted to land, and I'm really happy I ended up being here, right? And all these, academia has so many challenges, right? We can't romanticize it. And so what I think for me, building community as we're wrapping up is right now is being present for my students to see what it is, how I can be supported to them. And honestly, like, they need a lot of support right now, like a lot. And particularly my students, my female students who are in STEM, they need so much support, because a lot of them are transfer students and are getting, I don't think they have the emotional support to continue, right? And we already know the statistics of like women of color, men of color, folk of color in STEM is really like small. So I think for now, that's how I'm building my community, is through them, and hoping that I can, you know, co-construct little pockets of counter spaces for them. And sometimes, even though if I want to try to do that, just to kind of listen to them and check in on them, something so simple can go a long way. And I hope it does. That even though I'm their professor for this particular course, it doesn't mean I'm not available to just be there for any other kind of support or resources that I can give them, which is why I think your podcast and your work is so critical, because I point a lot of my students towards your podcast, especially my master's students. I'm like, this is a wealth of knowledge, take advantage of it, you know. But that's how I'm seeing community building right now.
Just as a quick side note, I like legit wrote my first blog post thinking about one of your students and sent it to that student. Oh.
Yeah, and I think just thinking about, Christine, what you shared about working with your students, and then also related to why, partly why you started this podcast, Yvette, or this business, Grad School Femtoring. I think it's so important because, you know, a lot of the times the institution, it's not like the institution gives us these spaces or collectives. It's like we do have to seek it out on our own, and it kind of can feel overwhelming. But I think part of it for me can be seeking people that you think you might connect with, whether you're a student connecting with like a professor, or grad students or professors with each other, right? Kind of like we did when we started Chicana Motherwork. And I think that's so important, but I think part of it for me is just even reaching out to people or just saying that you need help or support can feel really vulnerable. And I know it was like that for me, and also just being an introvert, just even more so, right? But I think just saying that you need help or support, I think it's important to ask for that, because a whole lot of other people probably need the same things too. And then if you can work together, it makes it that much better, because you're not alone and isolated. So I think about that a lot. And even just looking back on what I experienced, like things that I needed and didn't have in undergrad and grad school. And I want to help try to give those things now, you know, in the ways that I can, which right now mostly has to do with my creative writing. But you know, so there's different ways that we can do it. But yeah.
I'm gonna ask y'all, unless I think Judy, I think you were gonna say something, but I was gonna ask y'all one more question. Last question. You, if folks resonated with y'all and would like to be in touch, what's, you know, the best way to reach you? And we can also give them the Chicana Motherwork handles too. That works too. So how can folks reach you?
Well, the best way for me is on Twitter. I mostly post writing related stuff. La Sangre Llama with underscores between the words. And then on Instagram, Bookworm Por Vida, also with underscores. And I just share when I'm reading, what I'm doing, what I'm applying to, more so in creative writing and publishing, but I am there. So that's where you'll find me.
Also, Cecilia's Mothering While Brown publication, I think it got like 60,000 views or downloads from our website, I think, from the statistics. So you can also find her readings there. Just saying, it's an amazing read. I could be reached through the Chicana Motherwork email, just to kind of keep the separation between work emails, because I get saturated at work and my emails will drown out in my work emails. So Chicana Motherwork is the best way to reach me if anyone wants to reach out.
Yeah, and that's chicanamotherwork@gmail.com. No spaces, underscores, or anything in between. What about you, Judy? What's the best way to reach you?
También Chicana Motherwork Gmail works out, porque sometimes I'm burned out from my Fullerton one. I don't check it. I'm like, no, I don't want to check it. So if you want to reach me, and it's a good one. I like getting those emails, right, where it's like, I relate to you. I'm going through what you're going through. Those are a lot better than my Fullerton one. I love Fullerton. I love my students, but that would be the best way. But I think I was gonna say about how, thank you so much, Yvette, because Grad School Femtoring really reminds me of like how it's what we didn't have. You're providing it for everyone, free and accessible. And I always think of like I keep thinking when I teach is like, be the professor you wish you had. That's what your podcast does, is be the grad school femtoring that you wish you had. And that's exactly what you do. And this is why you have so many listeners listening. So thank you so much, Yvette.
Thank you
for having us too.
Congratulations, 100th episode.
Yay, 100. Keeping it 100. Oh my gosh, I totally had to say that. Thanks so much for joining me in the Grad School Femtoring Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please rate this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you tune in. You can also support the podcast by donating to my Patreon page, Anchor page, or Venmo account, which is at Grad School Femtoring. If you have questions or episode topics, you can contact me by sending me a DM on Instagram, sending me an email to gradschoolfemtoring@gmail.com, sending me a voice message on Anchor, or sending me a message via my personal website at YvetteMartinezvu.com. Until next time.